Yo, what up? What's up, Kay?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. Doing very
Good, good,
well.
good, good, good,
And
good.
so E's on his way. If you don't hear his voice for a little bit, that's because he's gonna be in a bit on the show. But for now, we do have a guest this time around. This gentleman he's an author. He's a multi-dimensional content creator. Has focused his efforts, at least the things I've seen around fatherhood, and has some history with one of the big media companies. I'll leave it at that in case he doesn't want to share. But he I don't know. We'll get right into it. But this man's name is Esteban Serrano. And most recently, and you tell us the deal, but I saw Rap Dads is one of the vehicles that you've created, and it has some affiliation with Sway's Universe and got some really cool guests and stuff. So definitely want to talk more about it. But yeah, man, welcome to the pod.
Listen, thank you so much for having me. Like, I remember release week for Rap Dads. I think it was maybe an hour or two after, we started rolling out content, and you guys hit me up. Regardless of the numbers, regardless of anything else, the fact that I'm talking on this pod with you guys has been the highlight of Rap Dads for me so far. I gotta
Damn,
admit that off the bat.
damn. Well,
Y'all been
well,
doing it, man.
well
You've been
thank
putting in
you.
the work. It's been amazing content that you guys have been sharing, amazing platform for fathers. And I'm happy to contribute my flavor to this space. But I gotta acknowledge the fact that y'all been holding it down.
I
We
appreciate that.
appreciate. Yeah, no, it's much appreciated, and we like to come at it from instead of a space of competitiveness. Like this is such kind of a sacred space, and there's not a lot of us
Absolutely.
out here who like care about it as much. So
Facts.
so for us, I mean, even there's been other folks who've had pods and things that are centered around this, and we've always extended, and probably we're all stronger together. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and to that, it's also like a greater mission, right? I think, and we'll get into the reasons why you do what you do, but I would venture to bet it's along the same lines where we're trying to improve a path for the next generation, the kids we're raising
Absolutely.
today, to be in a much better situation, and we believe having a strong foundation when it comes to your parents, particularly on the father's tip, is on the father's tip. pun, pun intended.
Right,
Right.
right, right.
Is going to make it a much better experience. And frankly, like for me, as a self-proclaimed dad entrepreneur, like
Uh,
you are not going to have society evolve for the better if you don't have strong foundational roots. And I say we as men lack that more so than women on average. And so
mhm.
the work that we're doing collectively, I feel like is contributing to the benefits of fathers to do better.
Word. And I started Rap Dads one because I wanted to leave a wealth of knowledge and information for my sons in the case, God forbid, I'm not around to usher them into that phase of their lives. But also, if I could share and impact whoever is on the other side, the father that is raising my son's significant other, then we're only making, everyone better at the end of the day. So, there's layers and layers of why, this is such an important topic. And I'm glad that, we out here doing the work.
Absolutely. What's up,
What's
E? How
going
you
on?
feeling, bro?
What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing?
What up,
Damn,
what
you
up?
sick? Yo, you sick again, B?
Bro, I'm struggling, man. I'm struggling.
Ouch.
Yo,
Struggling. My son was sick. On Monday, didn't go to school. Tuesday, didn't go to school. I'm with him, and my son is mad passionate. Like he's very, he has a cariñoso,
yeah.
is what we say in Spanish. So he likes to hug and he gets really close. And I'm like, I'm not gonna turn him away. You're gonna
Nah.
get it. You already know it.
Right.
You're gonna get
Done.
it. You're
Once
like,
it's
damn.
infiltrated the crib, it's everybody's.
Yeah.
Done.
They only share that.
Yeah, so yeah, I got it right after that, and and the rest has been downhill from there.
Shit.
So we'll talk about that in a sec, because I know you got some updates on some shit that's going down. See, I don't want to over dramatize it. It's just life shit we'll talk about. But so Esteban, let's talk a little bit about Rap Dads. I know that's the latest thing that you're into, but actually let's go back in time a little bit. You mentioned you got 3 kids. Can you break that down for us, like age wise, all together? Like what's the makeup and the dynamic?
Yeah, man. So I have a 19-year-old. He'll be 20 in 2 weeks. 20-year-old. My God.
Got an
He's
adult there.
You know what I'm saying? He's a sophomore at Drexel right now, and he is my wife's son. But since we've been together, you know, I've known him his whole life, and I've stepped into the role of a parent in his life when he was 2 years old. So that's Joe. My middle son is my clone. That's Esteban, is mini me. He's 16. And my youngest son is Mikhail, and he's 13.
Oh. Ooh.
Yeah,
All right. So you stepped into that, your eldest Joe, you said, right?
Yep.
Hey, real quick. How does your wife feel being the only woman in the in the scene? Like, does she get ganged up on in terms of like everyone?
Nah, bro. My wife is funny. My wife is the smallest person in the crib.
Yeah.
Everyone has surpassed her. She's 5'1", but she's the queen bee, bro. Like you know, we all try to rally. It don't work. Like, you know what I mean? Mommy is running things.
That's like good. In my house when I was growing up, my mother's like barely touching 5 feet. But yo, in a quick minute, the chancleta will come at your face, a broomstick will fly out of nowhere. Like you're not stepping over no boundary with her.
Not at all.
So you came into Joe's life at he was age 2. Yep. If you're comfortable sharing, like how old were you at that time?
Oh man, that's a great. I was 22.
Okay, I figured you were
22 years old.
I figured you were what we would consider mad young these days to have a kid.
Yes.
And so how was that for you? That transition from having no kids to getting into a relationship with someone that you knew already had a kid, and then accepting the responsibility to become that child's father.
It was wild difficult for me because I grew up with an amazing father. So, you know, my father's philosophy, my father was the only father in my neighborhood. Growing up, he was the only present, active father in my entire neighborhood. So when I grew up, my friends' mothers would come to my house with their sons and try to get my father to parent them, like discipline them even. You know, my dad obviously would never put his hands on anybody else's kid, but that showed, you know, how he took to all the kids in the neighborhood. Like I would come home from school sometimes and my friends would already be sitting on my step. And they'd be talking to my dad. Like my dad was the neighborhood's father. So it wasn't hard for me to jump into that role and being his father. The challenge for me was not stepping on his father's toes and making sure that I didn't feel like I was overpowering or overshadowing, you know, his biological father. But he lived with me. So I had to father him daily, where, you know, there's certain things that you see on a daily basis that you need to address or correct or you know, bring up or parent. So I had to find that dynamic. And what really helped me do that was my wife, man. She straight up told me, she was like, either you're going to be his father or he won't have one.
Wow.
And so, that's, I mean, what am I going to say to that? You know? So from that moment on, it was like, all right, I'm not going to treat him not like he's not mine. I'm going to father him. And then from that point on, you know, it's been that. And we have an amazing, you know, relationship. You know, that's my boy. That's my first, and my, you know, for me, that's my firstborn. That's my oldest. That's my baby boy, for real.
How's his relationship with his father, his biological? Does he
They have a
one?
relationship. Yep. He would see his dad on weekends at times. His father moved about an hour and a half, 2 hours away. So it wasn't as frequent. But and they have a great relationship. They talk, all the time. But it was hard because, I'm in my household with him every day. So I
Right.
have to, I have to be the one that's kind of the boots on the ground. So that was
The
a
full
little tough.
time. You're
But
the full time.
yeah, so at the end of the day, I was just like, look, if he's here, he's mine. And I'm gonna
Yeah.
do, what a father does, and that's what it is.
Did he feel any kind of way when your middle child was born?
No, because we made him a part of the process. That's one thing that we did really well. Like when we were pregnant with our second son, our oldest son, we hyped him up. We were like, yo, you're gonna be a big brother. What are you gonna teach your little brother? You gotta lead him, so and they're best friends, right now.
That's
And
dope.
yeah, and it's ill because my middle son, Esteban, again, he's my clone. I came in the kitchen one day when they were really young. I think they were like 6 and 3, and Joe was crying. And I walked in, I'm like, yo, what's going on? And Minnie was like, Minnie told him that he was adopted. I'm like, he said, I'm adopted. I'm like, Joe, you were here before him. Like, why are you even listening to this guy? Like, but yeah, they have a great relationship.
I can relate on many levels. So I came into my eldest daughter, she's 16. I came into her life when she was almost 4. And for me, so I was older than you, but I didn't have that example. So it sounds like for you, having your father as the neighborhood's dad set the tone for how you would kind of fall into those shoes. For me, I was in my early 30s, and my ego became a really challenging part of me entering her life in a fair way. And I remember, like, not that I would pick fights with a 4-year-old, but I would let shit fester or like bug me about her figuring out how to accept me in her life, right? Like, for instance, like a little kid would be like, I don't know, I don't like you, right? It's very easy for
Right.
them to say some shit like they don't
Oh
know what the
yeah.
fuck they're saying. They
You're
probably
not my
don't.
best friend anymore.
Right. Like
Right.
little stuff like that. And my immature ass would like take that shit to heart. And I wouldn't react to her, but I would hold on to that. And then
You're petty,
I
Manny. You hella petty.
I was. I can't say I am now, but I was.
I love that.
And I remember how much learning she taught me, right? She taught me a whole lot. I refer to her as my training wheels in this parenting thing, because the way it was introduced to me, I knew consciously I was making the decision to accept that role,
Right.
but I didn't have any real understanding of how much growing up I needed to do in order to be the right kind of father for her. And so it's something that I'm always, and it took a long time for me to really like adjust, but I was able to just let go of me and then really just be about her. And that, I think that was one of those like blessings almost, because that opened up the opportunity for us to have another child and then finally our third. But it took a few years for us to kind of find the rhythm together. So it doesn't sound like you had a similar kind of difficulty in your journey.
Yeah, nah, not at all. But that's you bring up a great point. Like fatherhood to me, I always describe it as a mirror. Like it's going to show you things about yourself that you maybe didn't know that was a shortcoming, or things about yourself that you don't like. But when you see it reflected, in either an interaction with someone that you care about and that you love, or you see yourself in this other person, like it's one of the greatest character builders of all time. And us as men, real men, we step into that and we want to be better. Like we see it and it irritates us that we feel this way or we react a certain way. So Like fatherhood is dope just because of that, if nothing more.
Did you find yourself in, because I've had some friends in the past and they've been in situations where, you know, the the significant other, their lady has a child and it's a boy. And then there becomes some weird kind of jealous dynamic of competing for affection because, it's basically two guys, right? And it always seemed a little bit different when the child is a girl. It didn't seem to be that same level of kind of affection competition going on. Did you find yourself even subconsciously in that zone?
No, I didn't, because I understood that when Joe is around us, it's about him. It's not about me. And, he was at an age where he was 2, where and Joe's always been somewhat of an independent type of guy. Like, he'll play or hang out with us, but he'll be in his world, but in our space. Like he didn't need to be between us or kind of get in the mix. And then obviously, he's going to bed at 8, after 8 o'clock, it's just the two of us. So I didn't have those struggles with him. I had those struggles with my younger 2, because they want to rub it in your face that they over here kissing mommy and look at me, I'm with mom, she's my woman. Like we would get into it. But with me and Joe, it was cool. It was weird that way.
It's the ones closest, right? They're the ones
Facts.
that... So you had Joe. Did you always know you wanted to have more kids? Was Joe at some
Here's
point
Manny.
like,
This is Manny's way. Manny wants
Yeah.
everybody
He wants
to
you
have
to
like
have 6 more
5 or
kids.
6
Yeah.
kids.
Why is the number why is the
Manny's
number
like,
not
so
10?
when's the next one
Right.
coming?
Wild. No, I knew we wanted to have more kids. I didn't think that we wanted to have a lot. I knew we wanted at least another kid. So we had Manny, and he was, it was a boy. So my wife's like, I want a girl. And just for you to understand, my older sister has 2 boys. My younger sister just had her first boy in December. My wife's sister, has 4 boys.
Oh shit.
So it's
surrounded.
there's no girls in their generation from us yet. So my wife was trying for a girl, my sister-in-law was trying for a girl. It just didn't pan out that way. But after 3, I'm like, boom, I'm tapping out. Like, this is too expensive.
Y'all getting a team together.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay, fine.
What?
So you don't want
Yeah.
5. I get it. Right.
Jesus.
Manny, when are you gonna lead through example, man? Like, what's up?
No,
Right.
I'm putting bids in every week. My wife's just
Oh.
denying them all.
Jeez.
Man.
All right. So what sparked, I guess not the desire, but what's to be focused, because it's not an everyday thing that, you run into folks and it's like, I'm really passionate about, bringing to light positive ideas in nature and,
Right.
about fatherhood and parenting,
Word.
people who have kids, yeah, everyone kind of in their own mind wants to be good at what they do and be a good parent, but it's a different thing to try to, put this out to the masses and really
Facts.
have it as a calling. So when did that start for you?
Yeah. So for me, just to backtrack, I've been a television producer at MTV, Atlantic Records, BET, a lot of places for 20 years now.
Okay. All right.
And the reason that first of all, I fell in love with hip hop when I was born. When I was a baby, I fell in love with hip hop. When I figured out what I wanted to do career-wise, I needed it to be rooted in hip hop. And I hated the way hip hop was portrayed in media. It was a scapegoat. It was, misogyny. It was violent. It was all of these things that it was only 10% of.
Right.
And the rest of it was ignored. But the 10% was magnified. And that was because media controlled the narrative. So I always wanted to be a part of a positive reflection in hip hop throughout my career, everywhere I went. When I became a father, and again, I was young when it happened, it's just like, you become a dad, you start recognizing other dadness.
Mhm.
So I would see artists with their kids. I would see, the way that they hung out. And I never saw that portrayed in media. I never saw that spoken of in media. Not even like Father's Day. No one cared about rappers and hip hop when it came to fatherhood. But what I saw behind the scenes were these people were so dedicated, intentional, passionate about being fathers. I'm like, this has to be platform. We have to show this in some way, shape or form. So, that was why. It was a mixture of me becoming a dad and then recognizing all of the dads in the hip hop space and community. Then when I transitioned from a producer to being on air talent when I was at Fuse. Um, and so my icebreaker, anytime I would be interviewing a rapper who I knew was a dad, that would be my like off-camera icebreaker. And they would light up and they would want to talk about that. And I asked Wiz Khalifa, I think his son Bash was just a couple months on almost a year old. I'm like, yo, how many times have you been peed on? And he, oh yeah, I got peed on all the time. It's good for your skin. Like, that was, it was a funny thing, but only us dads know that, when you changing the diaper, it might go off on you. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man, I felt like it needed to be shared, and there's not enough community sharing of knowledge for us, for men. Women have a ton. There's tons of mom groups and books and podcasts and all types of things for them. And rightfully so, it should be, because that's a really tough role. But we got a tough role as well. So I definitely wanted to throw my hat in the ring for that.
And I think also in hip hop, the macho bravado of not showing that side of yourself was always there. And it's also a big thing in entertainment as a whole. Like people men didn't show themselves, having wives and having girlfriends and having relationships and having kids. And in hip hop, that was even more of a problem. And I think that's why it's so needed that all of us do this stuff, because it's just something that's under, it needs to be magnified to the masses to show us in all of our light, all that hip hop is, good, bad, and ugly. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of good that isn't exposed.
There's another aspect to it too that I think leans into the machismo aspect of just the nature of guys, right? Where asking for help is almost never an option, right? Like especially when you think about like a man when they transition into fatherhood, now it's like this king of a kingdom sort of mentality, right? And then you're like, yo, I know what's good for my family. You don't tell me shit. I don't even want to know how you get down because it's not relevant for what I'm trying to do with my family. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes we can do as men, because the Fatherhood podcast, and probably Rap Dads in a lot of ways too, is probably on the same wavelength, which is like, yo, we're going to expose points of view, right? And we're going to talk about some mistakes we make and how we atone for those sins and things we learn and oh shit moments where, yo, I didn't know
vulnerabilities.
That. Yeah. And from those, and you, I mean, when we look at like our DMs and just random people that we run into and they that resonates, right? That tells you how big a lack there is of us, being open enough to accept those kinds of points of view, but being able to seek them, I think, is really important.
Yeah, man. You nailed it for sure. And we learn a lot more from our failures than we do from our successes. So if we're not brave enough to share our failures, then a lot more people are going to fail that didn't need to, had we, put it out there. And, that is more so reflected in the book that I wrote, 10 Dad Commandments, Fatherhood Through the Lens of Hip Hop. I wrote this book and dropped it Father's Day last year. And in it is just chronicles of failure. It's just mad failure because, again, if my goal and my mission is to be the best version of myself so that I can be the best father for my kids, then I needed to fail so that I knew where, to shore up. And then I just wrote it in the book.
Tell us one of your biggest failures that led to like the best learning experience that's helped you make a change.
one of my biggest failures, man, was I'll never forget this day. I was in the car with my middle son, with my clone, and he was basically confessing and confiding in me that he was suffering from depression.
Mm,
Wow.
And he, at
That's
the
big.
time, he was maybe 13 or 14 years old.
okay.
And I didn't hear none of that. All I was telling this kid was, man, what are you talking about? You got the best life ever. You know, you do this and this. No one does this. And he was basically, and he said these words. He's like, I'm sad for no reason. Like, I don't know why. And it was such a crying out for help, man. And I'm there trying to convince him otherwise, you know? And then later on, maybe a couple days later, my wife, you know, we're talking. She goes, you know, Minnie, we call him Minnie. He's like, Minnie's suffering from depression. We got to get him to see someone. And then it dawned on me at that moment that he had tried to tell me that, and I completely was ignoring him because I learned that I don't have all the answers, and it's fine not to have all the answers and not try to fix everything or convince. Sometimes you just need to shut up, listen, digest, like, and then speak. You know what I mean? So that's what I learned. And I had to apologize to him. I went to him and I apologized to him. And, you know, I probably apologized to him maybe 4 or 5 times since then about this moment, because that's how hard it hit me, you know. And he's been, you know, going through therapy, and he's, you know, super happy kid, you know, like it was something that, thank God, he was comfortable enough to share with us and didn't, you know, battle through it on his own. And, you know, we were able to get him the help that he needed and, you know, get him on the right track. But that was the biggest
That's a big one.
fatherhood failure.
That's a big one. That's a big one. Now, do you think that, like, especially when it comes to, you know, depression, anxiety, you know, mental health, do you think when our kids try to tell us these things, or and our initial kind of defensiveness about it, or we don't want to believe it, it's almost like it maybe feels like it's a reflection on us, like, damn, did we fuck up? Did we do something wrong? Because I've
Yeah.
been going through something similar as well, and that initial, like, nah, you're okay, everything's cool. You know what I mean?
No,
But
it's all of that. It's
yeah,
all of that, man. We don't want to feel inadequate. We don't want to feel like we've started something or planted or, God forbid, you know, are a contributing factor to it. It also is that, you know, old school mentality of, you know, sometimes, you know, mental health is something that we don't talk about. Like, yo, you're not crazy, you're fine. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so kind of brushing it off at the same time. But I also, you know, the more I learn about it with him, it's not always something that we've contributed to. Sometimes it's chemical imbalance. Sometimes, you know, it's other things that we don't have any control over, that is not necessarily our doing. But you know, we just gotta show up and be there.
Yo, the whole shut up and listen thing is something that I work on every single day. And yesterday, yesterday my daughter comes home, my youngest, she's 7. She comes home from school, and I notice, you know how you know your kids, like when they're slightly off, you pick up on that, and you got to find a way to ask the right questions at the right time to get
Yes.
the truth. And before, back in the day, I would like obsess about trying to get the answer, right? I was like, yo, something's off. Yo,
Interrogate.
yeah. Like, tell me what's
Right.
going on. Why aren't you telling me? Like, I would start to get heated.
sound like my son. That's what he does.
He interrogates you.
Yeah.
So this time I backed off. I'm like, nah, that doesn't work. I gotta approach it differently. So I was like, are you okay? Because I noticed, and I'm like, yeah, whatever, going through the motions. And I kind of let her be, and I go check in on her. I'm like, hey, you okay? You need anything? Whatever. And then finally, like, I sit down, and I'm like, she's doing her homework, and I'm like, are you good? I nibble on her cheek, and you need help with your homework, and I'm just approaching it every angle I could. And then she comes out, and she's like, today I saw one of my friends in school have a seizure. And I was like, oh man, like I can imagine how scary that was. You want to talk about it? And she
Right.
was like, yeah, but I was so worried for him. And, she was like, she didn't start crying, but you could tell like it really
It was heavy.
impacted her. And of course, right? Like a kid's probably shaking, that violent episode is tough. And I was like, did you get a chance to talk to him after? She's like, no. And she didn't kind of get the closure. So the
Mm,
kid left because, he had this episode. He
right.
left. She didn't see him again. She had no idea what happened to him.
Right.
And so for her, that was like this big, and I was like, look, he's going to be okay. But when you see him again, if you want to find out what's going on, like I suggest you don't talk to him about what happened, but just like, just try to be friendly with him and just see how he's doing, but
Absolutely.
don't dig in too much. And then I brought, because when you're upset, you don't want nobody to talk to you. He's probably embarrassed and he's going through stuff. And she was like,
Right.
oh, and I could feel the relief in her,
Mm,
right? But it's the approach, because that could have easily,
always.
she could have shut down and that could have festered and it could have been this whole other thing. But yo, I'm just learning that shit now at 43. Like this shit, this
Word.
is not like, oh, I've been knowing this shit.
Nah, man.
So
It's all approach.
for you to have that fundamental like foundation at your crib, for your son to even want to share that heavy stuff, that says something.
Yeah,
Even though you
bro.
were trying to, correct it, fix it,
Yeah.
he was still willing to share it, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, and what's interesting too, though, I will say, like my younger sons are very vocal about things. Joe is not. Like my oldest son you gotta pry. You gotta like, so one of the times, he when he was a senior in high school, he was just kind of like moping around the house in the morning, like real, like just like lull. And before he left the crib, I was like, yo, man, give me a hug. And he gave me a hug and he just like melted in my arms, bro, and started crying.
Oh, shit.
And I'm like, yo, what's going on? What's wrong, man? And he was like, he just felt a ridiculous amount of pressure on his shoulders from school. Like he went to this amazing like magnet school that that you get recruited into. You can't pay to get in. Like it was a really great school. My son is an amazing student. Like he's been an honor. He graduated high school in honor. He got pretty much a free ride to Drexel. He's got great scholarship, great grades. But again, in his mind, he created all of this. I'm like, who's giving you this pressure? Who's telling you that you got to deliver something that you're not capable of delivering? Who's doing this to you? Because it ain't us. Like, we don't even ask him what his grades are. Like, we
Right.
don't, we really don't care. Like, you know what I mean? But it was him. But like you said, like you noticed that something was off. I could feel it. And I was trying to find an approach. And with Joe, if you ask, he defends. Like, well, nothing's wrong. Like, why are you upset? Like, why are you talking to me? Like, that's his thing. So like I had to find a way to disarm him and like get behind those defenses in order to like get stuff out. So some kids will just straight up tell you, this is what I need or this is what I'm going through. And then some kids, you got to feel it and you got to find those ways to unlock those little, those defenses.
That's why presence trumps everything.
Woo! Everything.
Because there's no way you're gonna know how to read the kid. I don't care how many FaceTime conversations you have, or
Right.
fleeting moments that you might cross paths with them. Like it's not the same.
Nah, man. It's not. And then like the heckle, of getting kids ready in the morning, he's got to get ready to go to one school. My other son's going to a different school. My youngest son's going to another school. They got to get out of the house on a time clock. Nobody wakes up and gets out early, so everything is hectic. For me to be able to feel that and react in the moment, again, it's all presence. It's all about knowing the energy and the flow in your house. And you can only do that when you got them dad spidey senses.
Yeah.
Let's jump into let's learn a little bit about Rap Dads and the platform and everything you're doing.
Word.
Give us the lowdown on that.
Yeah, man. So Rap Dads has been something that I've wanted to do. I want to say I think the idea was birthed, I want to say around 2017. And that was when like the idea came about. And obviously through life and through projects and, you know, all of the things that I'm doing career-wise, it never had an opportunity to really present itself. So, you know, last year was the 50th anniversary of hip hop. The year before, I was creative director of Yo MTV Raps, the relaunch for Paramount Plus.
Okay.
And so I was excited to and was looking forward to that kind of being like my contribution to 50. I'm like, you know, this is going to be, we already, built this brand back up, and everyone, the reception was really great. Labels and artists and everyone was calling. They wanted to be a part of it, for the 50th, and Paramount never greenlit another season.
Shit.
So I'm like, okay, well, what am I gonna do for 50?
Uh-huh.
And I had started writing the 10 Dad Commandments the year prior, maybe 2020, 2021. I started writing it, and I just I got all the commandments down, but I didn't like go into the weeds and really like start writing. So during that time when I knew that Paramount wasn't greenlighting another season of Yo, I was like, all right, well then, Rap Dads, Yo, 10 Dad Commandments has to be what I'm going to put out for 50 for my contribution. And I always, trying to find a new angle, a new spin, a new way of presenting, hip hop. So I started writing 10 Dad Commandments, and we were able to release it for Father's Day. I went on, Sway in the Morning the week that it was released, and Sway and I have been friends and business partners forever. It's like since I started my career, he was a mentor figure to me in early stages of my career. Then we started becoming business partners the more that I kind of climbed up. So, after I went on Sway in the Morning, and like the phone lines lit up, and he was like, yo, like, there's like 11 people calling to talk about fatherhood. Like, this is wild. So I left, and he hit me maybe an hour later and was like, yo, man, that show was amazing. The energy was great. Like, we had fathers on the phone crying on the phone, like, calling in. He's like, we got to do something. We got to figure something out, whatever. And then, an hour later, he calls me again, and, and he called me 3-4 times that day. And we talk a lot, but we don't talk that much, so he's like, we got to figure out something to do. And then I was like, all right, well, let me pitch Rap Dads to Sway, and let's see if we can, join forces and do that. And Sway and I have always, he's very like-minded. He's always finding new angles to present hip hop. He doesn't want to do what's already been done. He wants to, for example, we have a show that we're that have a pilot, but we're pitching right now. It's about celebrity dogs. Like, it's pretty much Cribs, but for celebrity pets. Like, we shot the pilot with CeeLo at his crib, and his dog has like his own room and wardrobes and paints and all types of stuff. So like, that's the type of stuff that we like to do. So fatherhood and hip hop, when I pitched that to him, it was like, done, no brainer, let's go. And so that was, probably in the summer. We started going into pre-production in the fall, and then we start rolling out content January 1st.
Dope.
And it's where can people watch it right now?
So you can go to Sway's Universe, his YouTube channel, swaysuniverse.com, rapdads.com. The way we roll it out is we do a video version of the show, which is more to feel like an actual show. So there's segments and little commercials and spotlights and things like that in the midst of the interview. And then the audio version of it is more podcast. It's more just me interviewing the guests. It's longer form. Those usually run about a half hour, 45 minutes, whereas the video version that's on YouTube is roughly 15 to 20 minutes.
Dope. That's dope. You're 3 episodes in, at least what's released.
Yep.
Are you doing, what's your vision for it? Is it seasons? Is it just ongoing? Like, how do you think about it?
Yeah, at first I wanted it to, I was thinking of it from a television producer standpoint. I was like, this is season 1. We're doing 8 episodes. We're going to roll it out, blah, blah. But now that it's up, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to come down. I think I'm just going to continually, drop. Yeah, keep it rolling. I feel like, again, I think when we were in pre-production or in production, we shot, I want to say 11 episodes. So it's not like, we can go till probably May and without having to shoot again, even though we're like going to cherry pick certain opportunities. But the vision for it is definitely rolling it out weekly, continually. But we want to do in-person events. We're talking about a big Father's Day event with a panel of fathers and performance and, being at a space and a location and it being for fathers to bring their children. I want to do that. I want to do some philanthropic stuff with it and partner with some people who are really doing the work for fathers and see how we can help, either just amplifying their message and spotlighting their nonprofit, but even more so really like lending our brand and our weight to help them, either it be fundraising or events or something like that. I really want Rap Dads to be a real force for fathers in as many tangible ways, as possible.
What's been the biggest like moment so far in whether it be the book or maybe things you haven't even mentioned, but in and around the space of fatherhood that has provided almost like that battery in your back that you are pursuing a passion that is making an impact?
Word. So one of those moments was I had a coworker, she's not hip hop whatsoever. She's a coworker, and I met her husband a couple times. Great guy, also not hip hop whatsoever, right? They had their first child last year. He bought my book. He read it in a week and DM'd me. And his DM basically said, before I read your book, I was terrified. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know how to raise this kid whatsoever. But yeah, basically he said, now that I read your book, I know I feel like I'm more equipped and I can rock out. And so that was like, a super huge battery in the back, because this is somebody that I didn't even write this book for, like all the language, the slang, the I talk about different fatherhood and parenting styles, and I liken it to Wu-Tang and the drunken style and the sword style and the tiger style. Like, you would think someone who doesn't really know hip hop, all that would go over their head, but he was able to digest it and rock with it.
Dope. Well, we should do a part 2 one of these days.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
please. I definitely want to engage more.
For sure.
It's important. It's important that we network and we do what we can, collaboratively if we can, because it's only going to be positive for everything we're all trying to do.
Absolutely. I always say, like, my competition with Rap Dads and my show is just fatherlessness and ignorance. Like, I'm not competing with no pod, no show. Like, what are we talking about, man? We're talking about fatherhood.
Yep.
Right.
100%. Yo, Esteban, man, it was a pleasure getting to know you a little bit, and thank you for being so vulnerable and just sharing some heavy shit here. I'm sure the audience appreciates it. And yo, y'all check out Rap Dads on Sway's Universe, his YouTube channel, or on swaysuniverse.com. And the pod is out as well. I'm assuming on all major audio platforms, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Oh, and rapdads.com.
Yep,
That's a direct site. Beautiful.
For sure.
All right, my brother.
Y'all.
Thank you, man.
Shout out to all the Rap Dads out there.
Hey.
Peace, y'all.
Peace.